Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping the manhwa Reborn as a character that never existed. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, it really helps us a lot. Enjoy! We start in the bedroom of an elegant and gracious lady who has just given birth to a little baby girl named Lowena. But upon meeting the baby, her sibling Thalia seems upset. Not exactly the reaction you'd hope from a big sister. As it turns out, Lowena Remedio is the protagonist of a novel created by none other than Thalia herself. Her mother, Roxana, invites little Thalia over to meet the new addition to their family. Roxana, Lowena, and her father Julian are all characters created by Thalia for her novel. But something unbelievable happened. 4 years ago, she was killed in a traffic accident and was reborn inside her own story. Kind of insane, right? You might think that it would be a dream come true for a writer, but Thalia arrived in the world of her own creation as a character who never existed. In her story, there are 3 families who exist to protect the world from evil spirits. There is the Imperial House of Acer, who acts as guardians, the Royal House of Celis, the Purifiers, and the House of Duke Remetio, that's Julian, who are healers. In the original book, the protagonists are one child from each of these families, including Thalia, and 2 boys named Aegis and Reyan. As a writer, Thalia was famous for using cruel plot lines to torture her characters, which sounds like a very good romance author, honestly. So the day Lowena was born, Thalia's sadness came from knowing all the hardships that baby would have to endure. And the fact that she designed it all herself, she can't help but feel guilty. Thalia, or Tilly for short, is currently 4 years old, so obviously she's always a little sleepy. Unfortunately, her adoring father is always cutting her nap time short. Although he's literally the prime minister, he says he'd prefer to be fired so that he can always be with his precious Tilly. That's cute, Julian, but don't you have a country to run? While father and daughter are in the gardens together, Julian asks his little girl if she'll live with him forever. That evening, while tucked up in bed, Tilly brings it up, and her mother asks if she wants to or not. Kind of seems like this is more than just a simple affectionate promise, but Tilly responds that yes, she wants to live with the whole family forever. Her mother Roxanne is touched and explains that he probably asked that because of a prince from a neighboring kingdom who has been separated from his father. As the creator of this world, Tilly knows exactly what they're referring to. Given the current timeline, she can guess that Reyan Celis is about to arrive in the Empire. In the kingdom of Celis, Reyan's father is the king, but really it's his stepmother who holds the real power. And she will do just about anything to secure the throne for her own son. So to protect his son, the king had no choice but to send him away using his studies as an excuse. That is so messed up. Why are manhwa parents always so awful? Just treat your kids right, guys. It's not hard. As I'm sure you can guess, Reyan has had a pretty miserable childhood thus far. The year he's about to spend with Aegis Acer is the best he'll ever have. Reyan and Tilly are about the same age, so I guess it's natural that her father would sympathize with the poor kid. While he's in his office wondering about the state of the kingdom of Celis, his daughter bursts in and immediately makes him smile. For once, Tilly is all smiles and eager to play with her dad, but she doesn't want to play dress-up or tea time like normal girls. No, Tilly wants to play a hostage situation with her toy bunny, because of course she does. That's authors for you. They're always looking to amp up the drama. She titles herself the Demon Queen and tells her dad that the bunny is a prince from a neighboring kingdom. If Julian saves the bunny, he'll have a good relationship with the kingdom and could even own it himself. Do you see where this is going? While Tilly is making her dad run laps around the estate for her own amusement, Aegis is being told he and the eldest Remetio daughter are about to spend a lot more time together. Which the little boy is pretty happy about, since his dad said Tilly would one day be his bride. Wait, what? Does Tilly know that? I mean, I know she literally wrote the story, but are her characters going off script? That evening, Julian, Roxana, and Tilly are having dinner together. Julian makes a not-so-subtle suggestion that his daughter accompany them to the Imperial Palace. She immediately says no, because she's a girl boss and can do whatever she wants. But when Tilly overhears her mother discussing the engagement, she starts to freak out. This is definitely not part of the original story. In the novel, Aegis has a huge crush on Lowena, so she's worried that if she accepts an engagement, there might be issues with her sister in the future. Although honestly, I'm not sure that's her biggest concern right now. isn't it more important to figure out if she even wants to marry this Aegis kid? Especially since he's a future emperor, and that would make her empress someday. In an effort to stick to the original plot, Tilly agrees to go to the Imperial Palace so that she can meet Aegis and make him hate her. A few days later, the fated trip takes place. Tilly is immediately a hit with the Empress and her son, and Aegis is all charm and gentlemanly manners. It's going to be hard to turn this boy away when he grows up. The adults discuss the engagement and admit they all think it's too soon to be talking about anything serious given the kids are literally 4 years old. Finally, someone's speaking some sense. Just to really drive the point home, Tilly tells Aegis to his face that he's not her type, which is kind of harsh. I mean, look at that kid. He's the sweetest thing I've ever seen, and he's going to be emperor someday. I'm starting to think Tilly's got the wrong idea, honestly. She's not holding back either. When Aegis points out that he gave her his strawberry, she offers to spit it back out. Her mother, Roxana, quickly takes her outside to walk off her tiny toddler rage. Roxana promises her daughter that she'll never force them to marry. The only reason the parents wanted their kids to meet in the first place is because Aegis is kind of lonely. As the Imperial Prince, he has plenty of people doting on him, but no one his own age to treat him like a normal kid. Tilly knows all this. She literally designed his character to be that way. So the least she can do is be his friend, just as long as there are no more conspiring marriage plots. When she returns to the others, Aegis is waiting with an apology and a basket full of strawberries, and who could refuse that? They agree to be friends, but fast forward 2 months, and Tilly is already bored out of her mind. All they ever do is eat snacks, take walks, and read storybooks. One afternoon, while he's reading Cinderella, Aegis unexpectedly asks her to dance with him, and he really goes the full 9 yards. Waiting outside for them is a painter, a pianist, and even the Empress sitting by to watch, so no pressure, kids. Once they start to dance, Tilly accidentally steps on Aegis's foot. I'm not sure why, but it seems to set her off, and she becomes withdrawn and despondent after that. The next day, she's back as her usual disinterested self, while the prince is trying his hardest to please her. He suggests they go for a walk in the garden and even offers to give her a piggyback. Sometimes I forget which one is the higher status. It's really Tilly receiving the royal treatment. While they're walking, Aegis asks about little Loina, saying he used to want a younger sibling, but now that he has Tilly, he's satisfied. I guess they are kind of like siblings, at least in the way that they bicker. But Tilly doesn't like him thinking of her as a sister and throws a straw. Trying to backpedal, Aegis says he was only joking and that he really likes her, and no one makes him smile the way she does. Jeez, buddy, pump the brakes. Romantics aside, he seems to feel more comfortable with her than anyone else. Out of his other friends, no one else understands what it's like to be the child of one of the big 3 families that the whole empire depends on. Obviously, Tilly doesn't really like that. Maybe because she's not Thalia Rematio. She wants to be liked for more than just this character she's playing. But Aegis isn't stupid. He notes her reaction and asks outright if Tilly hates him. The truth is that actually, she finds it hard to be around him. When Aegis was just a character, it made sense for him to be selfless and perfect and always thinking about others. But now that he's a real person, Tilly feels guilty. He's just a kid after all. If it wasn't for the original plot, maybe he'd be able to be a little more selfish and live for himself. Obviously, she can't say all that to him. So instead, she's kind of frustrated by him. It must be hard to be trapped in such a young body, expected to act like a kid. I know I would have gone crazy by now in Tilly's position. Heading home that evening, Julian informs her that 2 family members are going to have a gathering that weekend. Oh boy, this is sure to go down well. I just know Tilly is going to say something offhand about the prince in front of his father, the emperor. Meanwhile, the imperial family are gathered in Aegis's bedroom after tucking him in for the night. Peleus, the emperor, asks his wife Loti what she thinks of little Tilly, and she calls her an angel. What? Even after she stormed out on her son and acted like an arrogant princess? But maybe that's why she likes her. Loti has been worried about her son for quite some time. He's too mature for his age and always so dedicated to the empire that he picks friends based on their political value. It might be good for him to have someone he can relax around and even take a bit of beating from, and we all know Tilly is more than qualified for that. When the families meet that weekend, she's just as moody as usual, especially since the Emperor just became the third member of her ever-growing fan club. Clearly, she knows her power with these adoring adults. When she sees Julian having a cup of coffee, she immediately turns on the charm to try and get a sip. "Hey, Tilly, I don't know if you remember, but you're meant to be a child. You can't have coffee, bestie." Devastated, Tilly instead accepts a donut offered by the Imperial Prince and even splits it in half so they can share it. Soon, she's had all she can stomach of the grown-ups, blushing over their cuteness, so Tilly grabs Aegis to go play outside. The sweet little prince even tries to sneak some coffee for her from the kitchen staff. They only give them the coffee beans, and because he doesn't know any better, Aegis takes a bite of one. Ugh, poor innocent little Aegis. It should be funny, but instead it triggers a memory from Tilly's past in the real world, and she is suddenly sad. Aegis tries to take her hand and she yells at him, demanding they go home at once. Damn, for someone who's secretly an adult, she sure does act like a baby. Aegis tries to calm her down, but Tilly is resolute. It all just hit her at once. The fact that she really is dead, the memory of her brother holding her hand and weeping, it would be enough to make anyone freak out. She throws her toy bunny at the prince and falls to the ground sobbing. No matter how hard she tries to adjust to this world, it all feels fake. All she really wants is to wake up in her own body, in her own life, and to see her mother one last time. Whoa, that just got real deep for a second. And it only gets worse from there. Tilly suddenly stops holding back all her deep emotional thoughts and tells Aegis she wishes they weren't friends and that he only likes her because he thinks he should. She accuses him of always doing his duty rather than listening to his feelings, and says that hurts. At the end of the day, she does really like Aegis, but he's just trying to be a good son. Okay, Tilly, let's take a breather. Don't you think that's all a little heavy to dump on a 6-year-old? Poor Aegis has no idea what to do with all that and seems very confused. He says he really does like her, but if someone else had been Duke Ramatio's daughter, maybe he would have treated them the same. I think even I would have trouble answering that, so it's no surprise when he starts to cry. Tilly finally softens up and tells him that she likes him exactly for who he is. She just wants him to be a little more selfish sometimes. After all, he's already a really good person. He'll become a good Imperial Prince either way, so he can afford to relax. And that makes Tilly realize something. Maybe she was put here to fix something, to save someone. Maybe she's been reborn for a reason, to edit the story and take care of the characters. With that in mind, she offers an olive branch to Aegis. If he can like her for Tilly and not for her family name, then they can be friends. Real friends this time. Initially, Aegis shakes his head. Tilly almost gets the claws out again before he admits that he doesn't want to be just friends anymore. He wants to marry her. Oh my. Well, that one's kind of on you, girl. What did you think was going to happen if you told him to listen to his heart? Tilly begins the painstaking process of explaining to a child how marriage works. But Aegis isn't deterred. He simply announces that he will do everything he can to make her love him so that they can be married and live happily ever after. Okay, I know they're still kids, but remind me what's so bad about marrying this kid. He's going to be handsome, he's going to be emperor, and he's already head over heels for her. If I was Tilly, I would already have said yes about 6 times. Tilly basically tells him good luck and turns around to find her mother standing right behind them. She owns up straight away to the whole "I hit the Imperial Prince and future Emperor in the head" thing, which is surprisingly honest of her. She then apologizes to Aegis himself, who is so shocked he can hardly say a word. Roxana apologizes to the prince and smooths it all over, agreeing to take Tilly home early. Meanwhile, a little boy by the name of Reyan is finally making his way into the picture, riding toward the Imperial estate in a carriage all by himself. Currently oblivious to his impending arrival, Tilly has found a new problem to be grumpy about. Her mom is going away on a 10-day trip and almost left without saying goodbye. It seems like the trip has something to do with Reyan, but as a child, there's only so much people will tell her. So she sees her mother off at the gates with a little kiss. Once she's gone, Julian is keen to have some daddy-daughter time and takes her to see a play about the Greek goddess of comedy, after which Thalia is named. Which is a little confusing since the world Tilly wrote was dominated by a religion with only one god. So where did they learn about the ancient Greeks? I'm starting to get a sense that there's more to this rebirth than meets the eye. After the play, they go for dinner where Julian brings up her approaching birthday and asks what she'd like for a present. Tilly can't think of much, but in her past life, her birthday was on Christmas, so she quietly wishes for it to snow on this next birthday. While they're having pasta and steak for dinner, Roxana, the legend, is saving little Reyan's life. Something went wrong on his journey, and she only just grabbed him in time before his carriage went rolling down the mountain. Anyone else smell something fishy? That doesn't look like an accident to me. 11 days after her mother left, Tilly is feeling down and bored. She doesn't want to play or do anything really. That is, until her maid promises her a special brown bread if she gets up and has some fun. Really, Tilly? That's what gets you? I would have thought a girl from a noble family could do better than brown bread, but whatever floats your boat. After a game of dolls, Tilly hears baby Louina crying across the hallway. She's been having a lot more temper tantrums lately, but the moment she sees her big sister, she falls silent. So Tilly sends the maid away, deciding to take care of her herself. They doze off next to each other, and when Tilly wakes up again, she has a lovely pile of bread all to herself. The maid has also brought news. There's a new friend coming to stay at the Remetio house for a while. 3 guesses who that is. Tilly stubbornly answers that she already has a friend, as if there's a limit on that sort of thing. But when her mother's arrival is announced, she races outside to find Roxana, accompanied by none other than Reyan Celis, the male lead of the original novel. But he's supposed to be with Aegis, staying at the Imperial Palace. What's he doing here? Tilly isn't sure why the plot is all mixed up, but she offers Reyan a loaf of her special bread. Actually, she's very friendly, far more friendly than she ever was with Aegis. I guess she has more sympathy because Reyan has endured a lot more cruelty by that age. And you can certainly tell, he seems withdrawn and despondent, and the woman accompanying him isn't especially kind either. She must be the one sent by his evil stepmother to keep an eye on him. With that in mind, Tilly decides to be kind to him and extends a rare hand of friendship. I hope she can bring him out of his shell the way she did with Aegis, cause it looks like this boy could really use a buddy. The moment she takes Reyan's hand, he starts to blush. Tilly asks her mother if they can have a picnic in the garden while they wait for Julian to get home. It sounds perfectly delightful to everyone except that mean-looking woman who arrived with Reyan. I don't know about you guys, but I'm putting my money on that witch. She's clearly working for the boy's stepmother, and if you ask me, she absolutely did not intend for Reyan to get picked up and saved by Roxana. Speaking of the lady, Roxana offers them the annex to stay in, and even provides them a butler for all their needs. Tilly is quick to get him on her side. She offers the butler a position as one of the 4 lords of the Demon Queen if he agrees to plot with her. All this Demon Queen stuff is cute, but when you think about it, Tilly is making some very strategic friends by assigning people roles in her game. Reyan has the potential to be a very powerful figure should he usurp his mother, and this unassuming butler is actually the man who manages Julia Remetio's intelligence organization. Our girl Tilly isn't messing around, she's building a team. Tilly gets a little overexcited by her new friend and the prospect of a picnic. As she's running into the palace, she falls straight on her face in front of Reyan. I guess that little body is still 5 years old, even if she has the mind of an adult novelist. Like the sweet mother she is, Roxana holds her daughter to make her feel better and even gives Reyan a moment in her arms as well. She carries him to see baby Louina and disappears to get changed. The maid in charge of Louina's care introduces herself to Reyan, who seems a little overwhelmed at all the new faces. Actually, he seems a lot overwhelmed. Tilly can hardly resist his cuteness when the kid starts to cry. You have to remember that the character she wrote was one who always had his guard up, who had grown up trusting no one and always acted cold. But maybe this time around he'll have a chance to be softer. Maybe Reyan is the one she's here to save. The only problem is, Reyan is a key part of the original plot in the book. It's him who will one day grow up to save the world from an evil spirit. Maybe he needs to have a harsh childhood in order to do that? But I mean, plenty of stuff has happened that wasn't in the original plot. For starters, Tilly exists. Who's to say what will happen further down the line? Once they're settled, Reyan starts gobbling pastries like there's no tomorrow. Tilly finds out about the attack and why her parents decided to take him in rather than let him stay at the Imperial Palace. She has her own suspicions about who organized the attack, but the author of this story is more interested in why her parents decided to deviate from the plot and take him in themselves. Maybe Julian took her advice to heart when she suggested he look after a prince from the neighboring kingdom? Whatever the reason, I'm glad they have Reyan safe beside them now. The poor boy has clearly been starved and neglected half his life. He doesn't believe them at first that there's dinner to save room for. Tilly tells him that from now on, they're going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together, with a few snacks in between, of course. The whole family sits down for a meal that evening. Reyan is clearly tense under the watchful eyes of the governess lady. She has a ridiculous schedule cut out for him too, planning classes all through the day. Obviously, Tilly doesn't want to leave him alone all day with this evil lady, so she decides to join him. Which is pretty selfless if you ask me. If I was reborn as a 5-year-old, the last thing you'd catch me doing is studying. Her parents are so shocked that they insist the kids study together. Apparently, this is the first time Tilly has ever considered taking lessons, which isn't surprising since she has the brain of an adult. The governess is resistant, though she has no choice but to accept. The moment Tilly sits down for her first class, she immediately regrets her decision. As it turns out, Reyan's schoolwork isn't even educational. It's just copying out a text over and over again filled with words way too complex for a kid to understand. It's obvious he can't tell the meaning of the text. This teacher is clearly just being cruel. He's even rude to Reyan's face about how little effort he puts into class. Well, yeah, I don't think I'd be trying very hard either if you asked me to copy out the entire works of Shakespeare 5 times a day. Tilly pressures Reyan into going to the bathroom, at which point she rounds on the teacher. She tears the text in two and asks whose order he's following. The tutor, whose name is Daniel, isn't very intimidated. He thinks she's just some stuck-up rich kid kicking up a fuss because she doesn't want to study. Boy, has he got the wrong girl. Tilly doesn't waste any time. She gives him 2 options. Either he quits his job and leaves the kingdom, effective immediately, or she tells her parents what happened and they punish him for insulting royalty. And by the way, the maximum punishment for insulting royalty is the death penalty. Oh yeah, she's not playing around. When Daniel realizes she's not kidding, she offers a last alternative as a compromise, that he stop abusing Reyan and start giving lessons appropriate for a 5-year-old. Looking at this little girl leaning across the table like a mafia boss, he's obviously going to pick the third option. Unfortunately, Daniel isn't the only one in charge of teaching Reyan. And when they get out of class, he admits that one of the others whipped him 30 times for failing a test. Jeez, this poor kid! His abuse goes deep. Tilly needs to prepare for a long battle if she's so determined to turn his life around. Tilly tells her maid to cancel the rest of the day's classes and takes Reyan outside to play. She makes him a flower wreath and puts it on his head, trying her absolute hardest not to squeal at how cute he looks. When Tilly's maid comes running over, we get a bit of backstory about her character. A childhood friend of Roxana's, she was originally supposed to take her own life after the death of her son and a fallout with her husband. But in this version, she was handed little baby Thalia and given a reason to live. It's only a minor twist in the original plot, but it saved a life. Yet another way Tilly is fixing things for good. She tells the kids that she's had a word with the butler. There will be no more funny business with Reyan's classes from now on. In future, she tells the prince to go straight to Tilly if anything else happens. She is the demon queen after all. Fast forward 1 month and Tilly and Reyan are getting along famously. His strength has improved and he's gained a bit more weight. The teachers were set straight, but that governess woman Matilda is still lurking around, probably reporting back to his wicked stepmother. On a more positive note, Tilly's birthday is just around the corner. She already made that absurd wish about hoping for snow, but for Reyan's sake, she also asks for chocolate chip cookies so that he gets to try some. Aw, these two are so sweet together. On the morning of her birthday, Tilly wakes up feeling heavy and sluggish. Her mother lifts her out of bed, trying to cheer her up. Both her and Julian have the day off, so it's time to have some family fun. Despite Tilly's exhaustion, she is quiet and obedient as the maids wash and dress her. Her mother even fits her with a pretty little tiara. To her surprise, her most ridiculous birthday wish came true. It's actually snowing, even though it's hardly autumn. Apparently, this has nothing to do with Julian. It truly just happened. I can't tell if that's cute or a little ominous. Because of the snow, they decide to have the birthday celebrations inside. Tilly walks downstairs to find a huge 5-tiered cake that's so big it's actually a little absurd. Reyan is there too and has a present just for her, though he drops it when he hears her mention Aegis. Actually, that's a good point. Where has that kid been for the past month? We haven't seen him for a while. Reyan doesn't seem to like the idea of her having another friend. He doesn't even really want to be friends with Aegis himself. Maybe he's just nervous at the idea of having a new face around. He does ask her to hold his hand since he's so shy. Aegis and his mother soon make an appearance. He greets Reyan warmly while the poor kid just sort of stands there looking stressed. Relatable, honestly. While Aegis is all smiles, he does make a point to grab Tilly's other hand. Oh, cute. They're getting possessive already. As any adult trapped inside a child's body would, Tilly feels a little weird blowing out the candles on her cake. Like, is she now 5 or 33? It's kind of freaky to think about. Last year, she wished to wake up from this crazy dream, but this year, her wish is for everyone to have a happy ending like in the book. Then it's time for presents. Aegis got her a cute little stuffed cat, while Reyan got her chocolate cookies, just like she asked. She has a little bite before offering them to the boys, who somehow turn even that into a contest. The Empress also has a gift, a gorgeous jewelry box, inside which is a crown. You have to understand, this is not just a pretty gift. The imperial family gifting the daughter of another family a crown means they're accepting her as the crown princess. Which is sweet and all, but didn't they already call off the engagement? The Empress seems a little uncomfortable, so I guess they can take that to mean this is Peleus' doing? Or maybe his son's. They're both just as stubborn in their obsession with Tilly, after all. The party moves outside where the children play in the snow and their parents watch on the side. The boys are trying to make a snowman, but they seem totally incapable of working together. Aegis doesn't want anything to do with Reyan and vice versa. So Tilly just grabs them herself and lumps them into one big snow person. It's strange to see them butting heads like this. In the original novel, they were best friends, but clearly Tilly's presence has twisted the timeline. It wouldn't be the first time something has changed because of her. It's only a matter of time before one of them acts out. While the kids are fighting over Tilly, Reyan pushes Aegis to the ground. He's not actually hurt or anything. The only damage is when Tilly yells at Reyan, clearly triggering something from his abusive past. She apologizes, but tells him firmly that he shouldn't push a friend like that. It seems like the damage is already done. Reyan apologizes too, but he's withdrawn and almost dark. Seeing how upset it makes Tilly, Aegis announces that he's going to go and make up with him. He also seems to have realized that fighting over Tilly will just make her hate them both, and so he also agrees to be friends with Reyan from now on. Well, that was quick. At least one of these kids is smart and sensible. Tilly is grateful, but she reminds him to put himself first. She wouldn't want him to be friends with Reyan just because he thinks he should. That would make him a pushover. Charming as usual, Aegis just says he's only a pushover for Tilly because he likes her the most. Once he runs off, Tilly is left wondering how to fix things for Reyan. Of course, she can keep an eye on him and make sure he's protected while he's living with them, but once he goes home, everything will be the same again. According to the original plot, he's only supposed to be away for 1 year. So how the heck is she supposed to turn his life around in just 1 year? This poor girl always has the weight of the world on her shoulders, and she's only 33. Meanwhile, Reyan is having a little cry on Roxana's lap when Aegis walks in. He immediately gets up to apologize to the Imperial Prince, who takes his hand and immediately accepts the apology. But it wouldn't be Aegis if he didn't also mark his territory. He explains to Reyan that he likes Tilly in a special way. The kind of way that gets people married someday. Damn, bro! Way to stake your claim early in the game! But he also reassures him that neither of them will lose Tilly if just because the other one is there. They can all be friends and get along together. Nothing is going to change that. They agree to become friends, and Reyan is so charmed by the little blonde angel that he even agrees to help get Tilly to like him in a special way too. Reyan, buddy? Do you know what you just signed up to? 'Cause I have a strong feeling he has some special feelings of his own. That night, when Tilly goes to bed, her body feels strangely heavy. She wakes up alone to find a strange man in her room with her. But not just any strange man. The guy at the foot of her bed looks like Reyan all grown up, though he says the real Reyan is sound asleep in his room. The man warns her that she'll be in a lot of pain once she wakes up. As it turns out, she used her divine power to make it snow without even realizing she was doing it. And since she's too young to be exercising it just yet, it will cost her body. All of this sounds wrong to Tilly. There's no power that can control the weather, and besides, she's not the one who's meant to inherit the divine power. That's Luina. The stranger is very mysterious and honestly, not very helpful. But he does tell her not to make any more wishes until she becomes an adult, or else the price she pays will be so great that it will start to affect her lifespan. Wow, What a cheerful message to receive on your birthday. Just as he said this, the next morning, Tilly is ill and exhausted. The family doctor says it's just a cold and that she only needs a rest. But that girl has a lot more than just the flu on her mind right now. She's never been sick before. Actually, as a member of one of the three families, she was baptized at birth, giving her access to divine powers and also making her slightly more physically immune than the regular person. So a little cold is kind of a big deal for someone like her. Prince Reyan is so worried that he's been waiting outside her door all morning. He can't come in case he catches it too, so Tilly tells the maid to make him go away and play with all her toys to keep him distracted. She spends a miserable day alone, sweating in her bed. But no one is having a worse time than Julian. He's worried sick, not just about her health, but because he thinks he might know why she's fallen sick. When a child discovers their divine powers, it's called an awakening. The youngest person to ever have one was actually Julian's ancestor, who had an awakening at 10 and died at the age of 22. Yikes. Well, that doesn't make things look good for Tilly. She really needs to hold back on accidentally using her powers if she wants to even reach adulthood. The other reason Julian is nervous is that an early awakening in their children's generation is an omen that the evil spirit is near to returning, which is pretty much exactly as bad as it sounds. With all this on his mind, Julian goes home early to visit his daughter. She's already feeling a lot better after a meal and some medicine. In fact, she's feeling well enough to demand cookies, so the Duke takes Reyan to a sweet shop to pick some up for her. They return with practically an entire store worth of sweets, dumping them on Tilly's bed for when she wakes up. Remind me what's so bad about this fictional life of hers again? I think I'd trade places with her in a heartbeat. The next morning, Tilly is back to her usual smiling self, and the first thing she wants to do is play with her friends. She runs in to find Reyan and Aegis getting along like best buds. They even drew a picture of the three of them together with a snowman. Even though they're happy to see her, they seem a little worried. Since it's not common for someone like them to catch a cold in the first place, they're scared that she'll fall ill again. People are already suspecting an awakening, so she reassures them by saying it's all because she made a wish. She wished for everyone to be happy, and even though it might take a while, eventually it will come true. That's really cute, actually, and I guess it also makes perfect sense to a 5-year-old. Unfortunately, Tilly is playing fast and reckless with this whole wishing situation. She's so desperate to fix the wrongs in her world that she starts planning more wishes to try and help her friends. Almost immediately, she gets another visit from grown-up Reyan, who warns her against the idea. Yeah, listen to him, Tilly. You won't even make it to 18 if you keep this up. He makes her promise not to use her powers at all until she's at least 15. Tilly agrees, but only verbally. She has no intention of keeping that promise. The mysterious Reyan, who is also not Reyan, asks who she is. Who is she to be able to use divine powers while not being a part of Destiny's plan? I think if she told this guy she created this entire world, he'd have an aneurysm. So she kind of just says she doesn't know either. All she knows is that she's here to save someone. What's less clear is whether she can really save a person without altering the fabric of this universe. Then she gives him her real name, the first time she's told anyone since arriving in this world. It's Mir-Yun. Mir for dragon, which is insanely cool. I guess these two are kindred spirits of some kind. They seem to be forging a strong bond in all these dream meetings. After telling him her name, Reyan trades her a secret. There actually is someone she must save. Infuriatingly, he doesn't actually tell her who, and just says she'll meet them soon. Great. Thanks for that, Reyan. Helpful as usual. He won't be visiting her dreams anymore either, so he tells her not to use her divine powers and put her health at risk. He leaves her with one last tip, that destiny can change even without the use of her powers. Some things already have changed, and they might end up causing her trouble down the line. Did this guy get a degree in acting mysterious? Seriously, he just keeps dropping vague hints like some sexy Nostradamus. He leaves her with a kiss on the forehead and says goodbye. The next day, Julian is sharing a carriage with Alt de Bels, judge of the Kingdom of Celis. He's come to visit because, and you're not going to believe this, Julian wants to adopt Reyan. He's already filled out the paperwork, and he wants this judge to help convince King Catan Celis to give away his son. De Bels warns him that there are a lot of forces at play in the kingdom right now. Even if Reyan is clearly hated by the king's wife, he's still a prince. It's not like they're going to just give him over. When he gets home, Julian treats both Reyan and Tilly like his own kids. He even bought them both a gift. It doesn't take much for Tilly to realize what her father's plan is. As Tilly, she's excited to have an older brother and keep Reyan safe from his evil relatives. But as the author of the story, she knows that any adoption will be annulled. Apparently, some prophetess has a prophecy which will change everything. But prophecies and adoptions mean nothing if Reyan's evil nanny gets to him first. And it looks like she's out for blood. Tilly isn't stupid. She's already suspicious of the nanny and tutors. Word of the adoption must have spread by now, and they've been strangely quiet, even though it's pretty clear what will happen to them if all goes through. While deep in thought, she bumps into Aegis, who tells her Reyan is in the playroom with a maid. Not wanting to leave him alone for even a moment, Tilly marches straight over. They find him perfectly safe, drawing a gift for Julian. He seems to have swapped allegiances completely. He even calls his father the king a liar who doesn't love him. Well, that's pretty dark for a 6-year-old. All this comes on the back of a letter that was sent from King Catan. He heard about the adoption and said Reyan's mother would be sad in heaven if she found out. Which is twisted if you ask me. Is he trying to gaslight his son into refusing the adoption? The next day, Aegis makes a special effort to find Reyan when he wanders off. It seems like Tilly's urgency has caught on. Now everyone is a little worried about leaving him by himself. Aegis suggests they go and draw a picture for Roxana since he made one for Julian yesterday. It seems like Reyan is really a part of their family now. He even sleeps with them all together that night. Tomorrow, they set off for Luina's baptism. The Duke and Countess Rometio and their daughters will undertake a long journey to meet the prophetess. Reyan will be left with her trusty maid, Mia, while they're away. Everyone thinks it's going to be a short trip, and when they're back, they'll finalize the adoption. But in Tilly's book, everything changes after Luina's baptism. The prophetess will give a prophecy about the return of the evil spirit, and after that, Reyan will have to return home. It seems like everything they build is about to be torn down, and it's all because of Tilly. A few days later, the Rometio family arrive at the prophetess headquarters. They are greeted by priest Lumos, who takes care of Tilly while Luina and her parents go to the inner sanctum for ablution. Whatever that means. Priest Lumos is very kind to Tilly. He offers her caramel and tells her he was the one to baptize her all those years ago. While he's showing her around the temple, Tilly points to a corridor and asks where it leads. Priest Lumos invites her to go down it. The prophetess awaits, he says, to give a prophecy that only she can hear. Finally, we get a bit of background about this creepy prophetess person. She is one who receives prophecies and will help the protagonist find their paths to fulfilling them. At least, that's what she does in the book. But in the book, Tilly isn't the one to receive the prophecy. Luina is. When she walks in, Tilly finds the prophetess at prayer. She gets to her feet. Before Tilly arrived, she couldn't move a muscle. In the 20 days before a child is to be baptized, the prophetess can't do anything except pray. I bet she was really happy when Tilly walked in then. During her time at prayer, she has visions of the child's life, both past and future, though there's a limit to how far she can see. All her visions stop at the moment where Luina and Reyan get married after defeating the evil spirit and ride off into the sunset together. I wonder why that is. Maybe because a certain author finished the book at that point? The prophetess and Tilly both fall to their knees. She confesses that there is no prophecy. She just lied so that she could see her and ask Tilly about the path she should be taking. Well, this is a little strange. A 1,000-year-old oracle asking a 5-year-old for guidance? Pretty sure it's supposed to be the other way around. The prophetess seems to have lost faith in her religion, so she begs Tilly to answer her prayers and save this world. You know, no pressure or anything. I guess I never thought about it that way before, but the prophetess is right. The happy ever after ending in the book was exactly that, the end of their world as the characters knew it. Maybe this is the real reason she's here? To save them from the evil spirit and make sure their world keeps existing after the story is over? Tilly is a little freaked out, understandably. Despite the prophetess' freaky foresight, she doesn't seem to know the full truth about who Tilly is. So then why is she asking her of all people to save the world? The prophetess gives a surprising answer, because Tilly saved someone the moment she was born. As soon as Roxana gave birth to her eldest daughter, Mia the maid, who was fated to take her own life, once again had a purpose and changed her fate. And already she is trying to save Reyan. It seems like her true destiny is to save everyone, not just one person in this magical world. So she asks the prophetess what she can do to save her. The ancient woman starts to cry, grateful that the savior she has prayed for is finally here. 20 days after their fateful meeting, Lowena is baptized and the original prophecy is given. The evil spirit's return is announced, and the children of this generation are announced as the guardians. To everyone else, this is terrible news. When word reaches the imperial palace, Emperor Peleus is horrified. With that word is a letter sent from the prophetess, telling Peleus to detain Matilda the nanny immediately. Although it appears it might already be too late, little Reyan coughs up a handful of blood before collapsing on the ground beside him. I can't believe she managed it! Surely he's not dead, though. What would that mean for the prophecy? When they reach Matilda, they find her in a similar state of illness. The doctor says it's likely she mishandled the poison she used to harm the prince. Serves her right, that horrible woman. The emperor orders her to be kept alive for now. More important than her is Reyan. Poor baby Reyan, who is fighting for his life in bed. Aegis is by his bedside crying when Mia arrives, reassuring him that the prince will get better. Even if that is the case, Aegis still feels guilty. Tilly told him to stay by Reyan's side, but he couldn't stop him from being poisoned. They even ate the same food. That Matilda must be really skilled to have still found a way to single him out. Mia tells him it's not his fault, and the two pray together for his speedy recovery. Soon after, Roxana returns from their trip, and she looks mad. She takes over from the Emperor, literally chopping his neck to force him to go to sleep. Sometimes that's just what you gotta do when people won't listen, you know? Tilly rushed right to Reyan as soon as they arrived. If Aegis was feeling guilty, what Tilly is feeling is 10 times worse. This never happened in the original book. Once again, her existence has caused pain and darkness for her loved ones, no matter how hard she tries to save them. Refusing to let him suffer, she touches his cheek and wishes to take his pain away so that he will wake up cured. Oh, Tilly. That's cute and all, but you really need to stop making wishes. This is getting dangerous. 2 days later, the Emperor wakes up from his Roxana-induced sleep. The Empress relays the news of Reyan's recovery. They never found the antidote, but somehow the poison has left his body and he's made a full recovery. Ever since then, Aegis and Tilly have been sick with the flu. So I guess it's pretty obvious what happened there. I guess it's okay if the two of them shared the load. Does this mean Aegis's divine powers have awoken too? Countess Roxana has been leading the investigation in his stead. Although, I don't know if she's been investigating so much as just getting revenge. Apparently, she punched Matilda in the head and gave her a concussion. Although, I really can't blame her, especially after the latest discovery of her treachery. It turns out that awful gaslighting letter from the king was forged by none other than Matilda herself. I knew it! The king isn't exactly Father of the Year, but I knew he wouldn't be that mean. Even worse than the psychological manipulation, she also sprinkled poison powder on the letter before handing it to the prince. He's probably been ingesting it in small amounts for a while now. How you can be so evil to a little kid, I will never know. All I can say is that I hope Matilda gets the ending she deserves. Meanwhile, Tilly and Aegis are sweating out their flu in bed together. She asks the Imperial Prince if he made a wish, and he admits that he prayed to share Reyan's pain. Tilly seems mad, although she doesn't have a leg to stand on considering she did exactly the same thing. She tells him never to make another wish in case he hurts himself, and for once, the prince tells her no. On his last birthday, he wished for them to get married, and he's already sworn to make the same wish next year too. Oh my god, that's adorable, but Aegis, honey, you might not even make it to your marriage if you keep using your divine powers like that. Word reaches the Celis kingdom about their son, and the king is furious. The queen denies all allegations, but it's obvious she had a hand in Matilda's actions. Where else would she have gotten the poison? Or the royal seal for the fake letter? Her cruelty finally pushes King Catan over the edge, and he swears right in front of her that he will make Reyan king someday. Well, that's sweet and all, but what does that mean for the adoption? Back in the Rematio household, Reyan is finally well enough to get out of bed. The Duke and Countess are there to watch him take his first step, like the anxious parents they are. He knows now that the letter was forged and apologizes for hiding it from everyone. He thinks the adoption will be canceled, but apparently, it's already been approved. The king agreed before the prophecy was given, so now he's officially their son. Reyan is grateful, but to their surprise, he wants to go back home. Clearly, he feels a strong sense of duty after the announcement of the evil spirit's return. And I guess it doesn't matter where he is. They'll still be his legal parents, so they can come visit him all the time. When he announces his decision to Aegis and Tilly, they're heartbroken. Tilly straight up refuses to let him leave and even yells at him. Instead of answering, he just hugs them. He knows it was them who saved him and wants to return the favor by protecting the two of them. And in order to do that, he has to go home. He thanks them for everything and says he'll never forget them. In return, Tilly tells him to never give up and reassures him they'll always be there for him no matter what happens. And with that, Reyan leaves. Now it's back to the original duo, Tilly and Aegis. It doesn't take long for Aegis to immediately get back to his #1 priority, making Tilly fall in love with him. Hardly a week after his competition has left, he asks her on a date, plants a kiss on her cheek, and grabs her hand. Whoa there, buddy, slow down. Just because Reyan is gone doesn't mean you can go crazy on the romance. Skip forward a decade or so, and our little Tilly is all grown up. She's taking trips to the big city, teaching waiters how to make coffee, and even walking around in a disguise to hide her identity. Yeah, a lot has changed. Lowena is a little more grown up too. The girls have a very loving relationship and are still very close with their parents. After her secret city outing, Tilly has breakfast with them all together. Clearly, she's been forcing just about everyone to learn the art of coffee making since she immediately asks for one from the kitchen staff too. After seeing her cool big sister drinking the stuff, Lowena is keen to try it too. She asks if they can take a trip into town together to try it at a cafe. They can also get Aegis a birthday present while they're there. His coming-of-age ceremony is coming up, and it's going to be quite the occasion. I just realized we get to see Aegis all grown up. I wonder if he's still obsessed with marrying Tilly. Is it bad that I kind of hope he is? As it happens, Aegis is still thinking about marriage, just not in the same way as when he was a kid. With his coming of age around the corner, lots of noble families are hoping to secure an alliance by proposing their daughters to him. One such suggestion comes from a young lady Yggdrasil, who not so subtly offers to accompany him to parties in Tilly's place once he becomes an adult. But even Lady Yggdrasil is aware of his feelings for the young Lady Rematio. It seems just about everyone knows his intentions, except her. Meanwhile, Tilly and Lowena are back at the very same cafe Tilly visited that morning in disguise. She had a pretty big stake in this business and has built up quite a friendship with one of the waiters, though of course he won't recognize her as Lady Thalia Rematio. Lowena can see her thoughts turning while thinking about her business and asks her to loosen up a little. They're out on the town after all. The sisters don't get much of a chance these days to just hang out and be themselves. Tilly has been really caught up with the coffee shop, so she tries to relax a little. The conversation soon turns to Aegis' birthday present. She has no idea how to get him a present, which is both meaningful and not over the top. And Lowena isn't exactly helping, making such a big deal of it like this. She herself has decided to get him a horse. You know, the classic present for a boy coming of age. The present situation is also complex because Tilly is trying to signify friendship and not anything too romantic with her gift. You see, things have gotten more tangled since they were little kids. The three families aren't allowed to marry each other in order to ensure the continuation of their bloodlines. So in the end, she goes for cufflinks and buys them with a special set of rubies to make them a little more exciting. After coffee and shopping, the sisters are walking through the town when Lowena asks if Tilly has already decided on a gift for her own birthday. Of course, someone as organized as Tilly already has an idea, but she doesn't want to give away the secret just yet. All she's willing to say is that it involves a pair of purple sapphires for something she'll need when she's a little older. Oh, look who's being mysterious now. Seems like Tilly has learned how to play the game all these years she's been growing up. Speaking of which, how old is the actual author by now? In her 40s? Anyone else think it's a little weird to be flirting with a teenager in your 40s? Anyway. On one of their weekly hangouts, which are really just dates if you ask me, Aegis comes out with a shocking confession. He doesn't want to be the Emperor. Tilly is shocked, but she doesn't scold him. At the end of the day, he means enough to her that she would never force him into anything he doesn't want to do. Aww. There's only one teeny little problem with that lovely ideology. Aegis is the only heir to the imperial throne. Plus, he's going to be appointed crown prince during his coming-of-age ceremony. Both seem like pretty big obstacles to me. Aegis explains that he is happy to save the world, but living as the emperor after that feels like a sacrifice, like giving up his own happiness for the sake of his family. The day of the ceremony comes around, and of course, Aegis does his duty by accepting the position of crown prince. While Tilly goes off to change for the banquet, her sister and the new prince concoct a plan to get her in a gorgeous white dress with a tiara to match. Wait, is this what I think it is? Tilly doesn't suspect a thing while she's putting on the elaborate gown and tiara. She doesn't even suspect anything when Aegis comes out wearing literally the exact matching outfit. It's like when they were kids and he invited her to dance in the garden. Oh, I can't. It's too cute. Tilly is really not getting the message, even though he's giving every hint under the sun about marriage and how much he cares for her. Eventually, he just leans right in her ear and says he adores her. He really is the perfect man. How has Tilly refused him up until now? I really don't understand it. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next one!